right, Billiken fans. We now sit down with Katie Shields, who has guided her Billiken soccer program to their fifth straight Atlantic 10 Tournament Championship and NCAA berth. She's arguably the most decorated coach in the modern Billiken era, period, no matter what the sport. Katie, congrats on this season so far, and congrats on being our most recurring guest.
Thanks. I was joking. I said I hang out with you guys more than my friends this time of year. So, but no, thanks for having me.
Um, Katie, Katie, you haven't lost a game to Dayton since Thursday, November 3rd, 2016. So my question is, how do you look their coaching staff in the eye?
Uh,
I guess I should ask them that question.
I'll give them credit. I do think they've continued to get better. Dayton has. I mean, they
Yeah,
really
no,
have.
they're not like they're
Um,
good. That's
they're
the
really
funny thing.
they're a really good team,
That's
and
why it's just like guys, like I know. I don't know what to tell, like that's insane.
and I'll be honest. I mean, the first few years in the league, for me, they were the monkey on our back
Yeah.
that we couldn't beat. And then it obviously flipped after that 2016 drubbing in Rhode Island. There's also a coaching change that helped us in that moment too, a little bit, I think. But yeah, we've had their number, and every time I think it goes through our mind, right? Like, is this the time? Is this the one they're going to get
Hmm.
us? But yeah, our team took care of business again.
Speaking of Dayton, you obviously beat them in the A10 final. I have to ask because I noticed it in the midst of the celebration. You get the Gatorade bath, and it appeared that it may have upset your biggest fan.
It did. My 3-year-old Henry, he did not understand, and he was so mad, and just sobbing that they dumped water on me. Or so like he's Hannah Larson and Sid Beach are like in the doghouse with him for probably for quite a while. Yeah, because he was sobbing like inconsolable for the next 20 minutes.
I know my 3-year-old would have reacted the exact same way. She would have been so freaked out by that. How do you try to even explain
I
that?
just tried to tell him it was a good thing, like, it's happy, but and I was like, "Do you want me to go change my shirt?" Like, he just yeah, he did not he loves the Billikens, like, everything is about our team, he loves them, loves all watching them play, everything, but he did not like that moment.
That's great. Obviously you're ready for any possibility, and as a competitive individual, you know your team had earned a 2 seed or better. But what were your expectations prior to actually seeing that 2 next to the St. Louis name there?
I think going in, a lot of people had guesses. I thought we were either the last 2 or definitely 3. I probably expected a 3, just knowing the fight we have to have. Like, just it's always an
Hmm.
uphill battle, I feel like, against, the quote power fives. Which is just good marketing, if you ask me. But I think, like, to see the 2 come up now, I told the team, it's like the committee said, like, here's a 2 seed. We have to give this to you. We have to invite you to the party, but we really don't want you to be here long because here's Memphis, by the way.
Hmm.
And we'll send, SIUE up to Northwestern, a 4 seed, and Missouri State to a 3 seed. And nothing against Missouri State or SIUE, but their RPIs aren't even in the same land as Memphis. And
Right.
so I think it's a compliment, but there is still a little kind of a backhand to that compliment.
You
You,
you
you,
met sorry, you mentioned Missouri State there, and obviously you're ready for any possibility, and it's one game at a time. But Missouri State has Arkansas. Am I right?
Yeah,
That
yeah.
that in your like grouping of eight there.
right.
That Arkansas in your way has to raise an eyebrow when you see it.
I like it. I mean, obviously we have to beat Memphis. That is a good team. That is not a easy, that's not a true 2-15 game. Just looking at it. So that's got our attention. I mean, and then obviously the winner of New Mexico State, Mississippi State, will be another task at hand. But of course, we open the season with Arkansas. We have that history with them. Yeah, the eyes for that round of 16 game for sure go there.
I want to ask, this is kind of a specific thing to Memphis, because if you're looking ahead at the weather for this weekend, it's supposed to like just fall off a cliff, get super cold. One thing I noticed about their roster is they're like 2/3 from Canada. Is that something you're even considering as you're
I
scouting a team like
mean,
this?
it's funny you say that because we obviously know that they're so foreign and they're very Canadian. They've always just been Canadian heavy. It's their model. I didn't think about it in relation to the cold weather, if I'm being totally upfront with it. It'll be cold. I mean, listen, our team isn't new to playing in cold, and I don't think it. I mean, we played in 18. We played at Kansas, and it was about 10 degrees at
Mm.
kickoff. That was cold. I don't think we'll have that. It's midday Saturday. We'll be in the 30s. So, but that's a good point, Peter. I might add that to our scout. At least give
Just be
that
ready.
little
Yeah.
nugget there. Yeah.
You kind of touched on it because you said Memphis isn't the usual opponent for a 2 seed. It's not. They're much better than that, and a lot of I think you look at their schedule and people are surprised because this is a team that has done historically well. But they don't have a great win-loss record. What about this team? What do you know about their struggle this season?
Because we didn't predict them as a possible opponent. I will say in the last 24 hours, all we've tried to do is, while still preparing our team and doing that, is get to know Memphis. I think early on they were struggling a little bit for some goalkeeping identity. They seem to have sorted that out. They were struggling a little bit early on to find the back of the net at times. They've definitely sorted that out. And I think sometimes, and this is pure speculation a little bit on my part, but sometimes with a team that is so heavy on international players, it takes a bit for them to gel and get rolling, and I think that might be a little bit of the case with this Memphis group. But they are not, again, they're 77 in the RPI. There's teams that are better than their RPI, and there's teams that are worse than their RPI. They're better than their RPI tells us, just watching the eye test. But again, nothing we're not up to the task of, nothing, you got to beat good teams in the NCAA tournament, and that's what we had to have ahead of us.
Right. Yeah. It's nothing but good games. I mean, at the very least, these are teams that have won their conferences or whatever. I'm kind of wondering from a practical standpoint, because in basketball, in the first and second rounds, you've got a quick turnaround. You're playing 2 games in 3 days. But if I have the schedule right here, you have a little bit more of a gap. And then in the second and third rounds is where there's like a potentially quicker turnaround.
Yeah.
So how do you divvy that up from getting your assistants and doing scouting and things like that? Because I know for sure in basketball, they kind of split the staff, and a couple assistants are working on, whoever the next opponent might be, while a couple are staying on the upcoming game.
Yeah, it's kind of how we usually alternate scouts in our program. Chris Allen does one, then Olivia Silverman does the other. I do not. I do one scout a year. I did Richmond, just to give them a breath and a break. But I then focus. I do all the team film and kind of like our team prep. Um, Chris Allen will do the Memphis scout. He is the best in the business, I think, at preparing a scout, delivering it to the team, preparing them. But Olivia will work hand in hand, kind of with him. But he'll do the presentation, and then she'll work a little bit ahead to the next 2 round. The next round opponents. The one gift we do have, should we advance to this round of 16, we've played both. Probably, we've played Arkansas, we've played Missouri State, we haven't played Ohio State, but we've seen them. So we have a little bit of groundwork already done there. But Chris is kind of 1A when it comes to scouting, but that's not to take anything away from the behind the scenes and the prep work that Olivia does as well.
So I got a little intel that you've been unhappy with the officials the last few games regarding substitutions.
I'm not unhappy with. I actually think we've had really good referees. I don't know that we
Except for Don Tebow, he's horrible.
I like Don actually.
I know I like Don.
I really like Don. I like the
Yeah.
crews we've had. If I'm being honest, I don't think we fouled Dayton 19 times, but that's what the box score tells us. We do foul people a lot though, so it's not crazy if we're being honest with ourselves. But on a attacking corner kick, you have the autonomy as a coach to pull back a sub if you do not want to sub. However, when the center official beckons them on, if they're checked in, they have to enter. But the fourth official is not doing their job if they are not allowing us to pull back a sub before the center turns to beckon. And that's the case I make. And it's just very inconsistently applied. Like the rules very inconsistently applied across the country, and even from crew to crew at home. And so before the final, we had the conversation ahead of time, and we're good. But like we are so scripted in how we run our set pieces, and if we have Hannah Frederick on the ball, and she's often the one coming off, I don't want to take her off right as we're about to take a corner kick and lose our quality service. In the same way that Bree Halverson is our counter stopper, which has been an issue for us in the past, and if she's coming off, I'd like to leave her on. But yeah, I haven't been thrilled, but I think we worked it out for the final, and I'll make sure we're ahead of it in the first round game as well.
I guess you also have the advantage of, should you advance in each of these first few rounds, they're all home games too. Does that give you a little more insight as to, who might be officiating or things like that? Or
I think
in the tournament, is it just
the tournament is a little bit more I think they're more willing to travel referees in. Usually we know we know the crew. Typically there's only so many referees in this area.
And they all ref Veta.
They do, and then they all come and ref at Herman, which is a little frightening.
No playing from behind.
Yeah, exactly. But they actually flew the center official. They flew her in from Rhode Island for the final. But the rest was a local crew. So yeah, it definitely helps to be at home.
Bernadette sparing no expense. Oh man. So this team has won 18 straight. A lot of there's the I guess the idea that you may want to drop one late in the season, get the splash of cold water. How do you keep them focused and kind of hungry for more? Is that just kind of the player you bring in?
I don't know that it's the player we necessarily bring in. I think it's the player we cultivate though. And so this group's experience, they're mature, they know how quickly it's now gone in an instant. They've all played in championship games. They've all played except for the freshmen in the NCAA tournament. And so I think our training environment is incredibly competitive, and that keeps them a little nasty, a little hungry. I think it's healthy internal competition. Caroline Kelly scores a goal, Emily Gavey wants to score a next goal. And that's a good thing. Like they are also each other's, kind of biggest supporters. But I think there's still a chip on their shoulder with something to prove. Like I gave them the very first preseason poll. We weren't even receiving votes, and I handed that thing out before practice, and I said, "This is what they think of you." And a bunch of them hung it up in their lockers and have had it there all season. And I think even getting the 2 seed is phenomenal, but then getting Memphis, right? And so I think there's definitely there's still, while we are the favorite in the league, there's still an underdog mentality nationally, and that's the best motivation I can't recreate that. It's a drive to do something that's never been done before, and this team I think has it better than any of the groups that have come before them.
So you still have no shortage of bulletin board material then to keep them motivated.
Yeah, and sometimes they don't even need it. Now, we showed them, like who is Dayton's highest statistically rated player in the game was their right back, and like we kind of pick a fight then with them about like this is something Memphis does well. Like, what is she going to be a 160? And there is, from game to game, it's like there's still pieces that I think we use the phrase like pick a fight, but we can kind of prod at and poke at. And again, like getting Memphis as a first round tells you, I think, what the committee maybe still thinks of you.
Have you inquired with the A10 why Davidson is able to avoid you guys for like 4 seasons in the regular season?
So 4 seasons, I don't know. It's kind of wild. Now, I would also say I'm
Well, the 1 year we could throw out.
the COVID year,
Yeah.
right? But part of me is also okay with avoiding Davidson because man, they are a hard team they're hard to get at. They're hard to break down. So I'm like, I'm okay seeing Dayton versus Davidson in some ways. But so we did this fall was the first year, and I don't want to like bore you guys to sleep here, but like they did, so we're 15 teams and there's now 3 tiers from a scheduling standpoint. We are the top one within the tier one. So we play 2 through 5, and then we play the majority of our crossover games are in the second tier. And it is to help our RPI not get just tanked by those bottom 5. Weirdly, Davidson has been in that, even though they've been successful, their RPI hasn't been great because their non-conference schedule is terrible. And so they've been in that bottom 5. So that is like, it is now a little strategic of why we're not playing them. But it is weird that like we have players on our team who have never played them in the regular season. And that's strange.
I actually did not realize that they had officially done that. They just went to that this season in men's
This season,
basketball.
yeah, and this first season we were supposed to do it the COVID year, but this is obviously the first. I don't know why we didn't do it in 21, but this is the first year we've done it for soccer.
You mentioned. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Pete. You got.
No, I was just going to say, is there anything as you're preparing for these games now? Is the focused, or is your goal to kind of keep the preparation, everything exactly the same you've been doing all year? Or is there anything you're trying to do a little bit differently, like because the stakes are different?
I think, I mean, today we got after it today. They got out. I mean, we were running at each other 1v1, 2v2, hard tackling, like to the point where they're tackling so hard. I'm like, oh, Jesus. So I exactly. I will say, like it felt different today, like we're preparing for something a little bit more, and that's just their energy. It's nothing us coaches did. Our biggest thing, especially because we have such an old team, is we've been given a lot more days off than we traditionally have because they're old. They take longer to recover. I know they're not. They're 22, but like they just, Hannah Frederick does not recover the way freshman Hannah Frederick recovered. Same with Bree Halverson and Abby Miller and company. So we are very much thoughtful about their freshness, I think, more than we ever care about in August. And that's the biggest. And then the other stuff, obviously, we deal with is penalty kicks and like end of game situations, chasing a goal, up a goal, kind of protecting leads, which we've been doing despite Caroline Kelly's throw-ins, we've been doing well with. And so those are the pieces, but it's not a huge change in prep.
You mentioned Emily Gaby earlier, and I was laughing because in the second half, did you tell her she was going to stay out there as long as she did? Because that was the most minutes I think she's played all season, and she was looking exasperated at the bench for somebody to do something.
Well, it's a little bit of a balance with Gaby because she's been battling kind of a little bit of a chronic injury all year, and that's a little bit kept her minutes. Jesus. We've been protecting her a little bit.
Not a single chance I would have ever thought that in a million years.
And she's feeling better now. Like she's not 100% even today, but like she's doing well. It's obviously not held her out, but that has been just in the minute management a little bit in the back of our minds, right? If we get up, it's like, well, let's protect her. And so that I think has been more the limiting. Now she was feeling really good Sunday, and I always check in with her kind of before game, halftime. How are you doing? How's it feel? And she felt good, so I wanted to let her play. I mean, she deserves even more than she gets usually just because of managing that. So, but I did probably let her run a little past her fitness level. But I don't know, like she's also one of those players, even for us coaches, like she's fun to watch, right? Like you never know what she's gonna do, what she's gonna pull off. And we were having a little bit of fun in the second half, and we did not want Dayton to enjoy any minute of that game, and so leaving her out there was a part of that.
I love that. I'm wondering, As you get to the end of this season, and you guys have had so much success winning the conference, you know, you wind up with all these home games in the conference tournament, now in the NCAA tournament, potentially men's soccer winning the conference, getting home games in the tournament. How much does it become an issue that both of these teams are basically getting home field advantage for so much, so deep into the season? Is this actually like becoming a scheduling problem or anything?
I mean, I will say our administration, God bless them, they're positive thinkers. Like they had plotted and planned for this. So when we put in bids to host, you know, for the NCAA tournament, they made sure it was offset with whatever the men's A10 and then their NCAA game. So they were incredibly like forward thinking before Kevin or I were ever, you know, anticipating that. And then I think we have great relationships staff wise. I mean, we work together. The nice thing is they train in the morning, we train in the afternoon. So it's really not, you know, and then games wise, again, the admin was on top of it. I think obviously visiting teams coming in, that throws a little bit of the wrench, but they kind of get last pick anyway, in terms of times and training. So I think you think about like some basketball schools where they've got like one gym, they got men's, women's basketball, volleyball. Like we're fine. We got a practice field, a game field. I will say, like, I do think that the fields will get chewed, like the goal boxes. You can already tell, like on Herman, they're getting eaten up. But if that's the price we pay for home games, like it's okay. We'll take it.
I gotta say, I have a buddy who's a bit of a soccer snob. He played in college, whatever. Texted me today. He said, "Are the Lady Bills gonna win it all?" So that is what you're doing right now. I mean, he's never asked me anything about SLU anything before in his life. So just giving you that. I was gonna give you that before I let you get out of here.
That's pretty cool. That's cool. I mean, and how about our men's team? Holy cow! Like Kevin's setting a scary standard: lose 9 guys and win the league again. You know, so it's pretty cool what both programs have done.
Well, speaking of people that may not usually come out, what do you got to say to the fan? I'll just give you the floor to talk to the fans that only listen to us for basketball.
Come to basketball. I mean, I think it's going to be this is a special team to come watch and see. Yeah, there is. You know, while yes, we have the hopes, we will continue to build and recruit, and they don't always come together like this. Like they don't always have the health, they don't always have the depth, they don't always have the experience. And so I think this is a once in a while, you know, team, once in a moment, and I think they're just fun to watch. They're exciting, they're fast paced, and I would say Memphis is exciting, fast paced. So of the first round games, I think it's probably going to be one of the best ones, and it'll be a great display of women's college soccer. And I think again, most people that come watch our team typically they fall in love with them because they're exciting, they're fun, they're dynamic.
Well, Katie, thank you again so much for joining us. We love having you on. I swear, I tell you, we do a coaches show every Sunday if you'd let us. I swear, I've said it. I would have you and Kalish on alternating weeks. I really would. But no, thank you so much for coming on. It's always great to chat with you, and best of luck this weekend.
Thanks, you guys. Thanks for rocking the gear too, Zach.
Yeah,
appreciate it. It's awesome.
I knew he would. I couldn't match it.
It's all good, Peter.
Thanks,
Awesome.
Coach.
Thanks, you
Good
guys.
luck.
Have a good one.
See ya.